Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Business Central launch event session on the customer-managed encryption key. This is a new functionality that delivers on a need that we frequently hear from customers with very advanced data governance and privacy standards. And it's the ability to encrypt your Business Central environment database using your own encryption key in your own Azure Key Vault. Let's start with a demo of how to set this up right away. And to start, we need to set up a Key Vault in the Azure portal. So we go to Create a Resource, choose to create a new Key Vault, and fill in the basic properties on this page. So for our purposes, what's important is that we pick a name for the Key Vault. I'll go with CMK BCLE for now. We pick a region which must match the region of your Business Central environment. So in this case, I'm setting it up for a Canadian Business Central environment. So I'm picking the Canada Central region. And what's also important here is in the bottom, the purge protection. This must be enabled on Key Vaults that contain a key that will be used to encrypt your environment database. For now, I'll skip all the other optional settings. You can use them, but they're not required for CMK. I'll just review and then create this Key Vault. Now that the deployment is complete, let's go straight to the resource, the Key Vault that was just created in Canada Central, and navigate to the keys to create the key that will, in the end, be used to encrypt my environment database. To that, I navigate to keys here, then go to generate/import, and really only give it a name. So all the other default values here are sufficient for CMK. You can choose to use them, but you don't have to. Create that key, and I can see the key is here now. Now that I've created my key, it's time to make sure that there's a resource that connects the key to my Power Platform environment, which then connects to my Business Central environment. And to do that, I first need to make sure that the Power Platform resource provider is enabled for my Azure subscription. So from the subscription page, for my BCLE subscription here, I navigate to Resource Providers, and then I search for the name Microsoft.PowerPlatform. You can see here, for this subscription, it's already enabled, but by default, it would not be. In that case, just tick the box and make sure you register it here. Next, it's time to create another resource. There will be a custom deployment that connects the key to your Power Platform environment. And for that, I actually create a new resource as a template deployment using a custom template. So I go here, I click Create, and I go straight into the template editor. When I go into the template editor, there's this default empty JSON, but there's a sample of what you need to create the enterprise policy resource on the Power Platform documentation. So you can copy paste from there and replace a few parameters. What's important here is that you give it a description name. I'll go with CMK BCLE policy. The location must match the location of your Power Platform and your Business Central environment, in my case, Canada. And the ID of the Key Vault here must match the ID of the Key Vault resource that contains the key with which you want to encrypt your database. So in my case, this is the Key Vault that I just created. And the key name here is the name of the key that I just created. Now that all looks good, I'll go save. I deploy it in Canada Central, of course. I'll go to Review and Create. All looks good. It passed the validation. And I create this resource. Now that the deployment has completed, I navigate straight to the resource and I can see that this enterprise policy has indeed been created. The next step now is to make sure that the user that will end up setting up CMK in the Power Platform Admin Center later on has access to this resource so that they can find it from the Power Platform Admin Center. To do that, I go into Access Control here. I go into Add Role Assignment, and I make sure that I select Reader. Now that I have selected the Reader role, I add a new member. In this case, I'll use my own admin user, but ideally you would use a different user between the setup in Azure and Power Platform. So here you would select the user that finishes the setup in the Power Platform Admin Center later. Select my admin user, review the role assignments, and then confirm. Next, I navigate back to the Key Vault that I created earlier. Because in this Key Vault, I now need to make sure that the enterprise policy resource I've just created has access to read the keys in the Key Vault. To do that, I go to Access Control here, I add a role assignment. And I look for the Key Vault Crypto Service Encryption User role. Select that role, and then select the Managed Identity member to assign it to. For Managed Identity type here, you select the Power Platform type, and then you'll find the resource that you've just created of the enterprise policy. I select this managed identity, review that it all looks good. So I have my enterprise policy resource here, given it Key Vault crypto service encryption user role in the Key Vault that contains the key that I want to encrypt my environment with. I review and assign, and then confirm. And with assigning this role assignment to the enterprise policy I've just created, that concludes the setup required in the Azure portal. And it's time to move on to the Power Platform Admin Center. And you can see here, I have an environment that is indeed in region Canada, just like my key and my enterprise policy. And also important to mention here is that this is a managed environment. So CMK only works on managed environments. To continue setting up CMK on this particular environment, I go into security, and I choose data and privacy. And then I choose the customer managed encryption key. And you can see here that my user indeed has read permissions to a policy that exists in my Azure subscription. So I go on, select this policy, edit the policy, and then add an environment to it. So you can see here, out of all the environments that are in the same region as that policy, there's only one, my production environment in Canada. I select it and then continue, review that this looks good, save it, then review the warning here, which warns me that this will start encrypting the database right away, which may take some time to complete. So make sure that you apply this at a time that the environment can be down while it's being encrypted. I confirm that that's OK, and I can now see on the CMK BCLE policy details here that my production environment is being encrypted. Finally, now that I've set this up for my Power Platform environment, it's time to set it up for my Business Central environment as well. So you can see here, I have a production environment that is in Canada, but it's not linked to any Power Platform environment. Business Central environments inherit the CMK setting from their linked Power Platform environment. So to enable this for my Business Central environment, it's time to link the environment. You can see that I'm indeed able to link my Business Central environment to my production Power Platform environment, and that's possible because this environment is not linked to anything else. It is also in Canada, and it's of the same type. So both are production environments. I confirm that I want to link, and I can immediately see that the linking succeeded, and the customer managed encryption key is set. So now my Business Central environment is also encrypted using my customer managed encryption key. So before you set up CMK, there's a few things that are good to know. First of all, as I've just demoed, CMK requires a linked Power Platform environment, and this has two implications. First of all, if you unlink your environment after applying CMK, your Business Central environment will automatically revert to a Microsoft Managed Encryption Key. Secondly, if you copy or restore your environment while it is encrypted with CMK, you create a new environment that will not by default be encrypted with the same key. So after that copy or restore operation completes, you'd have to link it to a new Power Platform environment and apply CMK to that Power Platform environment as well. And then finally, if you export your environment, you create a backpack file in a storage account, and that storage account will be encrypted by default with a Microsoft Managed Encryption Key, but of course you can choose to re-encrypt that storage account with your own key as well. Secondly, the linked environment must be a managed environment. So as I just showed in the demo, the Power Platform environment for which I set this up was a managed environment, and that is required for CMK to work. To use a managed environment, this comes with some specific licensing requirements beyond your Business Central license. So before you can set up CMK, you need to make sure that you have certain Microsoft 365 and Power Platform licensing requirements in place. Finally, in my demo, I used a single user to set this all up, but in the real world, it's important to separate the duties in setting this up between different users. You'd use a Key Vault administrator for all the setup I did in the Azure portal, and then a separate user who's a Dynamics 365 administrator or a Power Platform administrator for all the setup I completed in the Power Platform Admin Center. That completes this session on CMK. Thanks for watching.